that has just launched where we're really hoping to encourage people from around the state, both organizations and individuals, to think about how we work better together to assure that we have opportunities for young people and enrichment throughout their development. And so, as a start, we wanted to really think about how we imagine partnerships across the state in unique ways, and we're delighted to have Terry Peterson, Jenn Beckstead, and Elizabeth Cassidy here to get us started. Um, just so you kind of get a sense of the flow of our time today, we're going to have our three presenters talk a little bit from their perspectives about how they're thinking about partnerships, and then uh, we will hear from a couple of what I've called front row participants who have partnerships happening across the state that can kind of riff and kind of resonate from what they heard from our three presenters. And then we'll try to open it up to conversation for everyone to have questions or comments or ideas that have come up for you as you think about the presenters and their ideas and how um, they offered some ideas. So with that, I'm going to introduce Terry Peterson. And Kate, if I would be grateful if you would be willing to kind of spotlight Terry so he can be a little bigger on the screen. Terry is a wonderful friend and ally to the Wyoming Enrichment Network. He is a national expert in out-of-school time and an advocate for many, many years. He has been a policy advisor, a teacher, and just an advocate and advisor to organizations all over the country. So very happy to have you. We'll then hear from Jenn Beckstead, who is the youth director at the Natrona County Library and has done some really amazing work in partnership with her team there. And we'll follow up with Liz Cassidy from the Sheridan Family YMCA, who's thinking about partnerships in a whole range of ways. And I'll turn it over to you, Terry. Thanks for being here.
Michelle, it's good to be with you and everyone else. Wyoming holds a special place in my heart. When I was a kid growing up on a little farm in northern Wisconsin, each fall my parents would drive uh, to a ranch near Lusk, Wyoming, to hunt with a cousin. And so that probably was my first big out of school time activity because somehow they talked my principal into being out of school 5 days to go hunting, I enjoyed that a lot. Anyhow, uh, I want to talk about really two things that are really exciting going on in Wyoming that I know about, and I'm sure there are many more. First is the development of the profile of the Wyoming graduate. I met your superintendent with Michelle a few weeks ago, and she is very excited about the profile. Uh, I followed another state that got into this a little earlier, but they didn't really have the excitement that your superintendent and I think your board has and Michelle has. And basically, the profile was posted on the classroom walls, but nothing happened. To really make something happen with a profile, you have to change the accountability system because that drives so much in education. And then that in turn can help inform and drive a change in curriculum and instruction. And so I think it's very exciting to have the profile to work for and with in Wyoming. If you look at some of the competencies, and I would urge you to look at them, let me just mention one that you can see why if you don't change the accountability system and you don't involve after school and summers, you're likely not going to achieve it. Let me mention one. Uh, Practice effective work habits, time management, and follow through. I don't think you have any measures of that now in your accountability system, but yet those skills are essential in the workplace from every study I've seen and talking to my daughters who employ a lot of people around the country. Also, keep in mind those attributes, they can actually be developed very well in after school and summer programs because they're more flexible. Think about that. Habits, time management, follow through. All kinds of projects can happen in after school and summer programs that develop those skills and many more. So I would urge you to look at all the aspects of the profile and see how perhaps after school and summer programs can help develop them in partnership with others. Because I think after school and summers, expanded learning in them is sort of the new frontier in education. We talked about it. Some kids benefit from it. Some groups are involved in it, but it is probably the real breakthrough area now that we know so much about how to make those programs work well. So to achieve the profile, you're going to need a different and stronger school day, but you also are going to need many more expanded opportunities all across Wyoming. So how can you take advantage? You're going to hear about the why, I think, a little bit later in libraries, but also think about 4-H, STEM and arts organizations, chambers of commerces, healthcare, construction and trades, uh, volunteers, and high school and college students can be a tremendous asset as partners in after school and summer programs and help develop many of these skills. One thing I've seen, though, to really go to a scale that makes a difference requires almost a community-wide mindset involving like-minded but sometimes very unlikely partners. And sometimes we think about this only in bigger towns have those kinds of organizations. But I've seen many examples where in small rural areas, individuals are tapped with skills, different kinds of organizations, small organizations are tapped to work with summer and after school programs and really making a difference. Let me give you a couple examples. A small rural community that was having a tremendous growth in jobs found that they had a tremendous shortage, you would guess, in adult supervision of school-age children. And they wanted to do more than supervise school-age children, but provide enrichment opportunities. So they created an interesting partnership. The vocational high school, the local community college, and neighboring after school and summer programs. And together they developed three credit dual enrollment college child development courses. So participating high school students in this program earned 9 credits in 2 years, but also their practicum site were local after school and summer programs. So they became teaching assistants. You almost automatically had 20 teaching assistants who now are learning how to do child development better. They were so impressive that all the sites end up paying them to work in the summers. And the first group of 20 graduated with 9 credits, got paid for working in summers and after schools, and were sort of in a pipeline to be after school, summer, and regular classroom teachers. That's just a little example, but you can think of many other occupations where there may be shortages that you could use a combination of high school students, community college, and after school and summer programs. And by the way, they probably develop many of the skills that you see in the profile. The other example I want to give you is something that is not used very much, but when you see it working well, it's very impressive. And that is using arts and artists in after school and summer programs to develop a range of skills, not only their own art form, but just think about it, making a film, developing new line dance, or writing and performing a country song, new song, a play, graphic design, painting, pottery. These art forms develop all those magnitude of skills that are needed in the workplace, and particularly if they end up having to perform this in front of an audience. It's probably this area probably contains some of the most almost natural skill developing areas that are needed in the workplace, even though some people would say, gosh, I never thought about using art or music or filmmaking to develop workplace skills, but they are very good. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, just a couple people here, last week I visited even a more full-blown arts engagement program where artists and musicians co-teach with classroom teachers in school, after school, in the community centers, reading, math, and STEM. What you see when they work together is a level of engagement of students, and also it really helps teachers broaden their skills and makes learning actually a whole lot more fun, to be honest with you. And often artists and arts groups are underemployed, so there's lots of them around, but they need to be developed to be involved in after school and summer programs. What you find in these programs that are spread across Maryland is that they have the highest attendance by far of any summer and after school programs, and they have the greatest gains in reading, math, and arts of any programs around. So, with this kind of broad overview, I hope that these examples and what I said, along with the examples and information given to you from the speakers that follow me, really give you the inspiration and tools to develop many more school, community, youth group, after school and summer partnerships across Wyoming. With them, I think you can achieve many of the goals of the profile, and I know for sure many more students will reach their maximum potential. Thank you.
Terry, thank you so much. I'm going to turn it now over to Jenn Beckstead. Welcome, Jenn.
Thank you. I'm glad to follow Terry because I have a lot of information to share that really jumps off of that arts and after school and summer activities. So at the library here in Casper and Natrona County, our mission is to promote literacy, support discovery and creation, and build community. And our vision is to serve as the cornerstone of an informed, connected, and thriving community. And so we have programs, our youth services, we serve kids from birth up through teen and high school. And then we also have adult programming as well. For probably the last 10 years or so, we've had a creation station in our library. So that's a maker space that's available for all ages. We do have more adult programs, but we regularly, once a month, have a teen program that uses our creation station materials, teaching anywhere from sewing to how to use the Cricut. We have a glow forge, which is the laser cutter, and that as well builds those partnerships and allows teens not only to visit with each other, but we have 2 teen staff that build relationships with them as well. We also have programs once a week on Mondays for that tween 4th through 6th age group. And so we try to throw in there on a rotating basis some kind of creation station programming as well. Let's see, it's probably been about 5 to 6 years ago, we received a grant and purchased what's called a kitchen a la carte, which is a self-contained kitchen that has an oven, a kitchen stove top. We have one staff member who's particularly trained on that and rotates that in. So anywhere from once a month to once a quarter, we have some sort of food program where those tweens learn how to cook. They learn kitchen skills, from how to wash your hands to how to use a knife. They work together to create not just something for themselves to take home, but something for the group. We just did a holiday program and they were in stations, and each station created something that then they went around and everyone was able to choose at least one thing from each station. And that's been great because then they can also teach others how to use that kitchen. We apply for and have received a grant from our Recreation Joint Powers Board for summer reading for probably at least the last 20 years. That allows us to do anything from bring in big performers for up to 5 days a week, 3 sessions a day. And those can be anywhere from magicians, storytellers, and puppeteers, and we have programming at the library. A lot of those are geared more towards that younger age group, sometimes anywhere from that story time age group of 0 to 5 to elementary school. But we're also able to take those programmers on the road. And so we make sure that those performers every week go into the YMCA, the Boys and Girls Club, and the Rec Center groups, because those kiddos are kind of self-contained during the day, not able to come to the library. So we bring the library to them. And that's been a great partnership. And like I said, we've done that probably at least last 15 to at least 20 years. We have, like I said, after school programming for the tween age group, for elementary ages, and then for those teenagers, which we consider 7th to 12th grade. A lot of the challenges, especially with that teenage group, is that they're not in charge of their own lives as much as they would love to say that they are. And so there might be transportation issues, availability issues with their schedule, whether they have after school commitments already, if they go to one of those after school clubs, if they're responsible for other people in their household. And so a lot of times, regardless of how we've tried different days of the week, different times during the day, we aren't able to serve all of the teens that we'd love to, so we go to them. One of the solutions that our teen specialists have found with some of our activities, and especially with book clubs, is that we go into the schools and meet them either during homeroom time or their lunch times. And through either grants or funding from our foundation or our friends group, we're able to provide books for them that they're able to read on their own time. They meet when our staff goes to the schools. And then again, that's building some of those relationships, maybe with kids that they're not normally seeing during their class time, because we're pulling from all different ages. We have book clubs in most of the middle schools here in Casper, as well as high schools. For probably, again, the last 10 to 15 years, we've had what we call Baby Book Club. And so one of the high schools has a daycare for teen parents. And so we go in at least once a month, provide them with board books, teach them why it's important to read to your babies. They get to keep those books. And then that group this year is actually going to be able to come to the library, because those parents drive and have their own transportation. And so we'll be able to give them a tour and show them what we have available here at the library for them. We have several youth serving organizations in town where we visit either once a month or as frequently as possible, and provide some of our programming there. So one of those is the Youth Empowerment Council, that's part of Mercer Family Resource Center. Another one is Gear Up, the program at Casper College. We've done book clubs with them, brought activities to them, and just shared information about the library and other community resources. There's been a group in Casper for probably the last year that started through the Natrona Collective Health Trust, that's called the Youth Mental Health Collective. And as they've built information and programming and looked at what our community needs as far as third spaces, the library has been included in that. Over the summer, they had a group of teens that met to really survey and find out what are teens looking for, where would those areas in town need to be. And that teen group chose a grant recipient to continue looking at what third spaces in Natrona County and Casper should look like. They also gave some kind of sub grants to current programs to beef up their services or what their spaces look like. And the library was fortunate enough to be one of the 4 groups that those teens selected. We also have some really great programming, again, that we do for kids, that elementary age group. We have, for the last 2 years, gone into a couple of the different elementary schools, not just to do story times where those kids are, but actually to reach out and do STEM programming, as more of those schools have that requirement, and teachers may or may not feel like they have the skills or the time to be able to build that in. We've been able to go in, whether that's sharing a story and then do some kind of fun activity. So not only do they get that STEM information, but they again see that partnership with the library. And the library is not just a building, the library is not just a book, it's a community resource. It's can come to me. This school year, we've actually had a unique partnership that built. So we do work with Casper College in lots of different ways. And like I mentioned, we've reached out with the Gear Up group. Some of our adult programming happens. We have some Casper College people on different boards. But their theater department reached out to us. Their first production this year was Elephant and Piggy We're in a Play, which was a perfect partnership with the library. And so we were able to do 2 different programs with them. We did an after school event where we had 3 or 4 different stations where kids could do activities related to the books. And then we were able to have 2 of the performers come in and circle around, get pictures with kiddos that were there and really promote their production. As well as we had a special Saturday story time, I think the week before they opened. And so my staff did a typical story time reading a few of the Elephant and Piggy books, and then the theater staff put on like a 10-minute clip of the play that our families were able to participate and see. We also are very close to some of our neighbors here in town. The Nicolason Art Museum and the Science Zone are within walking distance from us. And so we've worked with the Science Zone in a couple of different ways. The beginning of this year was our 50th anniversary celebration of Prometheus, our statue outside. And while we don't really have the facility to be able to do some of those fire activities, we were able to work with the Science Zone and host those activities there, and then cross promote those, as well as the Science Zone does monthly STEM family activities that are free. And so we've come over and done fairy tale science, again, sharing that fairy tale and then doing some kind of a STEM activity that relates. Also at the beginning of the school year, their site was under construction for about 3 weeks as they got some new exhibits. And they have an after school STEM club that met 3 days a week, and they were looking for a space. And so we were able to provide them with the space here in our building, which not only was beneficial for them, but it's that ability for our community to see that, oh, our spaces can be used in lots of unique different ways. And that, again, we have that good working relationship with the Science Zone. And potentially they may not have realized that the Science Zone, even though it's, 40 steps away, is available to them and another resource for them.
Jenn, thank you so much. And I just love also how what Terry said really built on what you're really doing in Wyoming in such a robust and meaningful way. I really appreciate it and appreciate your leadership. I invited Liz to talk about the Y and also some of the ways she's thinking about the role of the Y as a partner and also a partner to with families, working families and children at the center. And so, Liz, welcome, and we'll turn it over to you to talk a little bit about what's happening in Sheridan.
Thanks. It's so exciting to hear everyone because it's all such interconnected work. I was just thinking when you said bring the library to them if they can't come to you, that was probably the origins of our story of thinking outside the box in terms of partnerships and collaboration. During COVID, I had a chance to ride around with a giant unicorn when everyone was locked down on National Unicorn Day. And we just had a Google form and people would be like, come to my house and show the unicorn. And we were rolling up to apartment buildings and kids were coming out in their underwear, excited to see the unicorn. Kiddos who were on their own during the day while parents were at work and they were supposed to be doing online classes. And I always have prided myself on like, oh, I know a lot of kids in Sheridan. And there were kids that I had never met. And it really sparked in me, one, are we reaching the kids we need to reach in our programming? And are we stuck in our mentality of everyone knows the why, they will come to the why if they need help, if they want to be in camps, all these things. And so we partnered with our local food group and we started doing what's called Camp in the Park. So we picked a low income area that has a great park that the key piece was shade, nice shade in the summer. And our local Dairy Queen was willing to donate each week about 30 dilly bars. And so we just pop out, bring the cooler full of dilly bars. Kids show up. We use leftover supplies from our registered camps. And so we're just bringing the camp to them if they're not coming to the camp. And then everyone who played the camp games, the challenges, would win a prize. And that prize was some Y swag, maybe some free swim lesson certificates, all stuffed into a food bag. And every kid took it. It's not a, do you need this? It's not taboo. My own kids always come along and they like argue over who gets the bag so that they can see this isn't a, oh, only if you need it kind of thing. And so that's been really great because it's super affordable. The food group has extra food bags at the end of the week from their other distribution sites. Kids were rolling it up on bicycles. Great grandmas watching great grandkiddos showing up and not having to register in advance. We had kids who were like, cool, I've never had a swim lesson at the Y. And so just really tapping into our mission that way. And then we had the opportunity, because we are known as the place where you sign up for camps, our local art guild has this really great space near the Y, and they have a huge basement that's all set up for an art studio. And they said, we'd love to do more art camps. But you guys are kind of the people with the kids. And so we started offering all of their Sage art camps as YMCA camps held at Sage. But again, parents are like, cool, I'm signing up for camps. I got to get camps for every week. And we were able to offer, gosh, I want to say this last summer, 16 different art camps. In addition to what the Y is able to offer for traditional day camps, resident camps, all those things. So then Michelle, I don't know if she wanted or not, that turned into my vision because I'm a mom myself, and the idea of piecing together your summer for an elementary age kiddo is a predicament. So either you can go with a full-time babysitter if you can figure that out, but they're going to want to get paid every week. So then you start having that moment of like, oh gosh, I'd really like to sign up my kids for camp, but I have to pay a babysitter, or I need the camps to kind of checkerboard in to make sure every week is taken care of for the summer. So then these specialty camps, like the Sage camp that's from 9 to noon, or some of our other groups, Rooted in Wyoming had a great one in terms of one that they were like, we have about 2 hours of programming. And I would say those 2 hours are probably awesome. But pragmatically, as a parent, I need it to be from like 8:30 to 5. And so it's kind of the Maslow hierarchy of needs. Michelle brought together all of our youth serving groups, or at least a good chunk of us last spring, and talked about summers. And what you could hear was, well, we have enough staff, to do 1 week of this kind of camp, or we have enough staff to do multiple weeks, but only morning only, or we don't have transportation. And it got me really thinking about, from our seats, we want to make cookies. But from a parent seat, they're like, we just really need help in the most basic, fundamental way. And we'd love it to also be an enhancement and a learning experience and a memory maker. And so what we're in the middle of is doing a survey and really identifying some early partners to say, what if the Y served as the glue? What if you could do at the local museum a 3-hour camp and Sage could do a 2-hour camp, and we have Y counselors that, do the drop off and the pickup and maybe eat lunch together and do a couple traditional camp games and then get them to the next piece. Could we be the glue for other community entities to form full day camp within the bandwidth of every community partners organization? So a lot of them are like, we're not intended to be childcare. And I hear that a lot. And I get it. Like, everyone wants to be nose goes. We're not childcare, we're enhancement. But being able to be open and hear the need of our community is really where the rubber hits the road, that parents need to know, I can afford this and it's available Monday through Friday during the working hours. And so really starting to reinvent the WISE role as, I don't have a better word for it, but the glue. So how do we connect different camps, be a one-stop shop for both registration, but financial aid. We do a huge campaign, we're in the middle of it, to get scholarship dollars for the year. So if you just have your 1 week of science camp that your organization's able to hold, you probably aren't going to do a campaign for those scholarship funds. So just treating ourselves as a good hub to get other partnerships together to not only keep doing all the awesome work, doing incredible content master work as art and science and theater, and I like to say our favorite camp is Dungeons and Dragons. We see kids we don't see in any other camp at Dungeons and Dragons camp, and that's awesome. And let everyone be those content masters, and let us be kind of the thread that can weave through those and give parents some continuity. So we haven't done it, but we're figuring it out. And I wanted to invite you guys all into my little internal conversation that Michelle, I keep trying to suck into, of how do we do more as a community and stop being like, well, my lane is this and your lane is that. And parents are like, that's great, but that doesn't help our family Monday through Friday.
Thanks so much, Liz. That was great. And it has been really interesting to watch uh, the thinking in terms of as people begin to become a little more porous in terms of their interests, how it really is changing the conversation. So really appreciate that. I'd love to invite either Brooke or Ashley to to really visit about how what kind of some of these conversations sparked for both of you as you're thinking about your work and your goals as organizations working across the state with a range of organizations. Actually, maybe I'll invite you to go first since you're an A, and
Sure.
then Brooke since you're a B.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Michelle. Well, first of all, I just wanted to thank everyone for sharing about all of their programs. These are so incredible programs, ideas, thoughts, and just kind of kicking off with the last thing, Elizabeth, I absolutely think your idea is incredible. And if you all are able to hack that and figure it out with the Y in Sheridan, like the idea of weaving together programs or serving as like the glue to help communities and families engage in other programs that other people are hosting, to support, just filling in the gaps instead of trying to like stay in your lane. I just loved that. That resonated a lot because for those of you who don't know, Game and Fish is the state wildlife management agency. So we manage over 800 species of fish and wildlife. And although our motto is conserving wildlife and serving people. And so I will say that like 90% of our agency staff is really focused on that conserving wildlife thing, and they do it so well. Myself and my team of 5 people statewide are the the serving people piece of that. And so it's oftentimes we're leaning significantly into like volunteers or, negotiating with our biologists of like, do you have 3 hours of time to help us host a summer camp in this region? But it's hard for us to, then host programs that maybe fit with the 8 to 5 working parent, providing things that fit well into those in our community for, yes, like we'd love to, recruit a ton of conservationists for the future, but oftentimes parents are like, I need to piece the summer together. And so I just love that idea of working together and being more collaborative to find ways so that if you only have the capacity to offer, these programs on these days or these blocks of time, seeing if there's another organization in the community where you can partner or fill in gaps. That's shifting my mind on how to lean into volunteers or how to have those conversations to work together. Because the conversation previous to that was really focused on, partnerships and pipelines. And I think that is where we have been at Game and Fish. That's the paradigm we've really leaned hard into in developing a lot of our programs. So like at the beginning of our pipeline, we have a lot of stuff that's focused on meeting students in schools, right? Because school is a place people already are for 9 months of the year. And so we have like our conservation crates, which are just free educational, physical resources with accompanying activity plans for, teachers or youth leaders and communities to borrow. We have Trout in the Classroom, which is a program we have in 70 schools around the state where we partner with Trout Unlimited. We get fish eggs and tanks. We buy tank setups and chillers and 50-gallon tanks, and students get fish eggs and raise them to trout and then release them under the supervision of our biologists in the springtime. And that's a really cool program. Same thing with hunter education. We worked with the Professional Teacher Standards Board, PTSB, and Department of Ed to create a teaching endorsement so that if teachers become a certified hunter ed instructor, they can get that endorsement on their teaching license. And we have seen a bump in teachers either during the school day or even more popular is like as an after school program hosting like an actual hunter education course. So that's kind of like the front of our pipeline. Then the next step in our pipeline is kind of like more involved, I guess. People have to actually engage with the agency to sign up for these things, which would be like we offer something called the Why Hunt Fish program, where we partner with various nonprofit groups such as the First Hunt Foundation to facilitate mentored hunting and fishing experiences for mostly women and children. And the Game and Fish provides marketing, registration software, small grants to those nonprofits, and we background check all of the mentors just for safety. And then our other kind of like I see as like a really big one are our summer camps. I know the Y also hosts a lot of summer camps, and so do so many other entities. And so we host 9 weeks of summer camps in our Du Bois summer camp, Whiskey Mountain Conservation Camp. And we have youth camps, which are kind of like an intensive week-long experience that introduce the youth to not only just outdoor activities, but kind of science conservation careers. So they do everything from like self-directed inquiry research projects to doing sampling with our biologists, and then the typical stuff like archery, canoeing, firearm safety, hiking. Something that, speaking back to Terry's presentation about, the profile of a graduate, I like to think about how maybe things that are less traditional education and summer programming can really play into that. I know for us, we a couple years ago established something called the ACE, or Assistant Conservation Educator Program. So if there are youth in our camps that are showing like peer leadership potential, and sometimes they are, not your traditional, I want to be a biologist kid. Maybe they are a little bit more of the Dungeons and Dragons type camp kid. You're like, this came out of left field. But if they show, that they can be positive and responsible and honest and enthusiastic, we'll invite them back as an ACE. And then they get to serve as a peer leader, kind of an assistant counselor for our summer camp programs for other youth. And so like last summer, we had 11 ACEs that volunteered 1,032 hours across 3 camps for us. And so from a staffing standpoint, not only are we developing these youth, we're winning because we don't have a lot of people. And so it's really cool to have peer leaders and lean into high schoolers, or even in this case, I guess we don't typically engage them as ACEs until they're about 13 or 14. We like to lean into the 15 to 17 range if we can, but some of them show, that leadership potential really young. And we like to keep it kind of ages are secret at camp. And so the ACEs, you never know how old an ACE is. And so because it can get uncomfortable and you've got a 13-year-old that's technically in charge of the 15-year-olds. And so it's kind of the camp culture is like, you never know how old your ace is. They get to be like a mystery person then once they become an ace and have that kind of fun authority. And then it's been pretty cool. The last few years, we've launched our family camps with the idea being that like we can facilitate more families learning together to ensure that like these experiences. Micah, I see your question. The ACE program, we don't actually, it's not a very public thing because we invite back campers that enroll in our youth camps to like be a part of the ACE program. It's not just like open to everybody, but I can drop a link when I'm done talking to kind of like all of our education and camp programs. We've got a nice landing page on the website. But thank you for that. Yeah, no, that you didn't miss it really. It's just kind of like the way we do it is a little in the background because we don't want to I don't know, be exclusive in some ways, like very outwardly, but we do want to make sure that kids come to the youth camp first to kind of earn their spot as an ace. And we need like kids that are showing, the right potential to be leaders in a positive way with their peers. Because there are some kids with leadership potential that will take it in a very interesting direction. They can get the whole camp to mutiny. And so with our family camps, just before I jump into questions, we just want families to attend the camps together so that maybe when they go back home, they're doing those activities, continuing the learning and continuing to get outside as families together, not just like, oh, I sent my kid to camp, which is an option too, but then they come home and maybe mom and dad don't have the ability to further those skills. And we want it to be accessible for families, we do put most of our family camps, or all of them, are over weekends. We try to hit the gap of like a long weekend if possible, because we know it's hard for adults to like take time off. And then again, like all of our camps, we enlist a huge volunteer force. We had 18 volunteers spend also like an additional 1,000 hours on top of our ACEs helping host our camps. So we always like to lean into that. So I know I just talked a ton. I saw a couple other questions pop up and then I can pitch it over to Brooke. It looks like the other questions just to quickly. Yeah, so hunter safety and after school programs and how the library can partner. What I will do is I will link the page on the Game and Fish website that has all of our education programs and specifically about offering hunter safety. Anyone can apply to become a hunter ed instructor and host hunter education. We love it when libraries or other public venues are willing to either get their staff trained or just host, like use your building as a community space to host hunter education. Because we don't have a huge budget to like rent spaces to host hunter ed classes. And so we are currently planning our training opportunities for instructors to get certified in 2026. So this is kind of the shoulder season where we're getting those dates locked in. But if you keep an eye on our website there's a Become a Hunter Education Instructor page. And we should by January for sure have the 2026 training opportunities lined out. We provide it's usually a 2-day training. We try to offer a lot of them around the state. And then we do provide food and lodging we cover a hotel room if needed. And we try to provide food during the trainings as well, because it involves actually seeing a hunter ed class take place on the first, kind of like the evening of the first day. And then the second day we spend going through like, okay, so now if you were to do this, here's how you set up the class. Here's how you run it, kind of debrief the situation after you saw it in real life. So I will just link our whole education page, and within there you can kind of break out into hunter ed, conservation education camps, all of that. So, but thank you everyone. This has gotten my brain juices flowing so much and I love hearing about it. So I'll pop it over to Brooke too.
Thank you, Ashley. I agree with you. Listening to all of y'all, it's been amazing, and what you guys are doing is amazing. And it's making me think about so many things that we can do here at Cyber Wyoming. I love that you guys are being the glue and just trying to like outwardly try to engage your community. That's so amazing, and that's what we really try to do here at Cyber Wyoming as well with our education programs. With us, we kind of see, we have our business end and we have our educational end, and we see how educating, especially kids when they're young, about cybersecurity really helps them move towards that like what Terry said, that more well-rounded student that can go into the workforce. And we have so many different programs that we absolutely love. I've noticed while listening to you guys that we totally have missed like marketing to like other organizations like the Y, like the libraries, because a lot of our programs we've marketed it towards teachers. And I was thinking while listening to all you, I was like, oh my gosh, that'd be so great for these programs. So one of our bigger ones that we do is we had a Lego Cyber City model where we have a Lego model that is hooked up to a whole bunch of lights and a Raspberry Pi and computers. And the goal for those students is to figure out how to hack into that Lego model to turn on and off the lights. And it teaches, password safety. It teaches, introductory to programming. It teaches very introductory to STEM. Because like you guys said, like a lot of classrooms are now like pushing more of wanting to have more STEM in their classrooms. And these teachers just don't quite know how to like navigate it in. And that's how we thought would be a great way to be engaging and wanting to have all of these things put into it in a one big bundle that these teachers can just set up and put together and implement into their classrooms. We also have we had a camp where it's primarily focused towards middle school and high school students, where we would talk about the ethics of the workforce and ethics in cybersecurity. We had a murder mystery where we would have the students pick a role, and it'd be like the lawyer, it would be the marketing major, it would be all these different things, and we would have the students look up these roles, figure out like what education they needed, what the pay is, what the kind of the benefits are, like what the hours are, so they can get to know those roles a little bit better, get to kind of figure out like what type of things are in like a common business, because a lot of people, they don't really think of a marketing coordinator when they're in high school. They don't really think of, the HR person as like a career that they can gain, and kind of like introducing them to all those different types of roles in it. And at the same time, we have ethical things that they look at. We had one person, they were stealing office supplies. We had one person who didn't technically pass the bar, and kind of like talking about those ethical things that can happen in the workplace. Why is it ethical to do this? Why is it not ethical to do this? And those sorts of things. During that camp, we also had a mock hospital where we had students pretend to be, nurses, doctors, radiology tech. And we had actors come in and be like, oh, I have a head injury. Oh, my arm is broken. Oh, I have, a bee sting and I'm allergic to bees. And having them go through that entire hospital process. And as the students get to see like the full range of what it's like to be in a hospital, from billing to marketing to nurses to doctors, all of it. And then halfway through, because again, we are cybersecurity, we would turn off their routers so then nothing could work. And then they had to figure out, okay, what do we do now? We still have patients coming in. We still, have Miss Jones in like the waiting room, and like Mr. Jackson is in, radiology and like the MRI machine. What do we do? And having them huddle together, figure it out together. And again, those problem solving skills. And then afterwards, we talk about, how do we prevent this in the future? How do companies look at these sorts of things and make sure that they don't have cyber attacks and things go smoothly within their business and those sorts of things. Another thing that we have is we have our Cyber in a Box video challenge, where we give students, I think it's $100. It changes every once in a while depending on how much grant money we get, but $100 to those students, and they can use it for, pizza for like a viewing party. They can use it on, video equipment. They can use it on editing, anything they want, and they create a video based off of cybersecurity. And most recently, what we've been trying to do is do a very specific topic in cybersecurity, like cybersecurity in the energy industry. And we were really wanting to get those kids to go out into their communities and talk to people, like people who are working on oil rigs, people who are working on the new nuclear power plants, people who work on windmills, and figure out those niche things that are in their community, so cybersecurity doesn't feel like this big business thing that is super scary and those sorts of things. So I'm gonna make sure that I didn't miss anything in the comments.
Terry, I'm wondering if you would just offer, you had a wonderful comment about the body of evidence, and just curious if you'd offer your thoughts based on what you've heard from our partners.
Well, first of all, you have so many exciting descriptions of what we see, or I have the great opportunity because I work around the country, see as possibilities to excite and motivate young people in ways that are really difficult to do during the school day, but are absolutely essential, given where we are now with all the complexities, with or without your profile. What you describe basically are the way Wyoming could meet the profile, but with or without it, those are the types of skills, work habits, attitudes that are needed in the workforce for today and tomorrow. And it's so exciting to have those. The challenge I think you all described is that only a few young people participate because you're just in one location or you only have a money for a few sites, or I can't remember who raised this. Often the programs aren't necessarily offered when parents can take advantage of them or they don't have transportation. And I think what our first two presenters talked about is really fascinating, and that is sort of getting a fairly large community organization like a Y or a library, and I'm sure there's others who, now this takes a lot of work and what would be the right word? Giving up turf. But how can you get one of them uh, to partner with a number of groups to say, hey, let's look at the whole summer and what kind of opportunities do we have out there already? How could we arrange the schedule? Well, same with after school. So we cover all 5 days a week. So we cover from 3 to 6 on after school, or summers, we have most summer days covered with a variety of activities. And really use everyone's talents, but use them and coordinate it. And that is hard to do, but that's really what it's going to take, I think, to really be helpful to young people. And if you got a couple models, which I think you have already with the Y and library, maybe you all with your statewide network could ponder how could you make that happen in, let's say, 50 communities, maybe not the first year, maybe 49, Michelle, the first year, but eventually 100, using a variety of groups. But I don't know if anyone's done. I've seen big summer efforts or a intermediary like yours, Michelle, is at the city level, like Boston. Boston had
Mhm.
last summer had 18,000 kids participate 4 to 5 weeks in the summer involving 200 different organizations. And it's become, but it's not only helped the kids and family, it's sort of, it builds up the community. And what we don't have in many examples in smaller communities, which actually sounds harder, but might be easier to do. I mean, think of the politics of Boston, man. It's probably a lot less than Laramie or other place, Sheridan. And
Well,
and I know they're rough everywhere, but it's a lot easier, I think. But that, I think, and you have just in the few presenters here, what a mix of things that kids love to do. But how can you sort of take advantage of everybody's strength and plug them in different ways and not break the budget? And I don't know, and it could be that community foundations, even some businesses, might love funding some of this because it's not starting from scratch. It's taking sort of what's there and maximizing everybody's piece and then coordinating it.
yeah. Thanks so much, Terry. I want to open it up and just see if there are other comments or questions from the folks who have been listening. And also want to just acknowledge Rosemary do you go by Rose or Rosemary?
Yeah, either is fine.
Okay.
I am
Well,
in 21st century community learning. So those who've worked with Wen know Karen well. And so she's been mentoring me into this role. So
so we're just happy that you're here and welcome. And Rosemary, just delighted that you're in that role. And Terry is kind of like the the parent of 21st century programming. So we're glad that you could be here while he was here as well. So does anybody else have any questions or comments or sort of thoughts as you've been listening to the presenters today? Great. Well, this is we're first of all just delighted that everybody's here. This is, as I mentioned, the beginning of what we're calling our Time to Thrive campaign. You'll be hearing more about that. We will have three additional conversations. The next one is on trying to, I'm not, I'm want to make sure that my sequencing is right. Do we do career connected learning next, Kate?
Yep, sorry about that. Was just pulling it up. So we have on December 2nd will be our next meeting. We'll do Engaging Adolescents Insights from 10 to 25 by David Yeager. And then December 9th is Career Connected Learning Across Young People's Development. And then we'll wrap up with December 16th, Elevating Youth Voice in Local Decision Making.
And in that case, that will be a panel of young people from across the state who are really talking about what they would like to do and how they would like to have their voices elevated. So it should be really exciting and important. The next one on adolescence is highlighting a book by David Yeager, which is called 10 to 25. And we will also be announcing a book study that we're going to be doing starting in January of that book in partnership with the state library. And so I would encourage everyone to sort of poke around in David Yeager's book. It's really been a game changer for us as it relates to how we're thinking about supporting young people, but also helping to train and provide the skills to adults that they need to be their best selves to show up for young people. So we'll look forward to hopefully having some of you who are interested in that and thinking about Laramie County Library System. We're super excited to be able to be working with libraries as our partners in that opportunity. So, and then I'm going to just turn it over to Emily. She wanted to just give one opportunity coming up as part of our Time to Thrive for everybody to be thinking about early on.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you all for the conversation today. My gears are certainly turning, and Terry, you teed it up beautifully for us to speak to our Summer Mentors program that is for college students. During the school year, we work to help provide positive youth development strategies, active learning strategies, ways that they can connect with young people in their home communities. This year, we have the opportunity to expand beyond STEM to a more broad interest group. So if you are an organization on this call that might have summer staff, college students that come back home to your communities, we would love to be in touch to help provide them with some training and resources while they're still in school so they can hit the ground running come June. The registration portal for that will open January 20th. So I just hope that if you are in a space that we were working with college students over the winter break, think of us and let us know how we can support you and your programs in bringing these amazing near peers, emerging adults to your programs to help connect with kids.
Great. Well, and we'll look forward, please. Oh, by the way, we have our wonderful Aria Heineman, who is an intern, a journalism intern here in Sheridan, who will be creating a summary and overview of our conversation today. And you'll all get a copy of that, and then we'll disseminate that more widely and have it on our website. So the recording of this will be there, but in addition, we'll have a summary and additional linked resources. So things like Game and Fish, Cyber Wyoming, the Y, all of those will be able to capture that in a written form too, so that folks can refer back to it. So with that, I just want to thank everybody for being with us. Appreciate everyone's time, and just we'll look forward to continuing the conversation. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
I know.